The EPA-approved pamphlet titled Protect Your Family from Lead in Your Home is a federally required educational resource that must be provided to buyers and tenants of housing built before 1978. It explains the health risks of lead exposure, especially to young children and pregnant women, and offers practical guidance for preventing and reducing lead hazards in the home. Here's what it includes. Key sections of the pamphlet. 1. Health effects of lead exposure. Lead exposure can cause serious health problems, particularly in children under 6. Risks include brain and nervous system damage, learning and behavior problems, slowed growth and development, hearing and speech problems. Pregnant women exposed to lead risk miscarriage, premature birth, or developmental issues in the baby. 2. Sources of lead in the home. Deteriorated lead-based paint, common in homes built before 1978. Lead dust from paint chips, friction surfaces, windows, doors, and renovation. Contaminated soil, plumbing pipes, or imported consumer products. 3. Identifying lead hazards. Visual signs, chipping, peeling, or cracking paint. Dust on windowsills or floors. Soil near exterior walls or areas where children play. Recommends lead inspection and risk assessments by certified professionals. 4. How to protect your family. Keep paint in good condition and clean up dust frequently. Wash children's hands and toys often. Use wet cleaning methods, not dry sweeping. Take precautions during renovation or remodeling. Avoid using lead-containing home remedies or cookware. Describes how to hire certified professionals for lead inspections or risk assessments. Mentions the importance of regular cleaning with wet methods, not dry dusting or sweeping, to reduce lead dust. 5. Renovation rules and safe work practices. Contractors working in pre-1978 homes must follow the EPA's Renovation, Repair, and Painting (RRP) rule. Use lead-safe certified contractors. Protect the family and isolate work areas during renovations. Advises homeowners and tenants to use EPA-certified contractors for any renovations that disturb painted surfaces. Outlines the dangers of DIY renovations in older homes without proper precautions. 6. Federal law requirements. Outlines. Section 1018 Disclosure requirements for real estate transactions. Explains rights of buyers and tenants, including the 10-day inspection period. Emphasizes the responsibility of sellers, landlords, and agents to disclose known lead hazards. 7. Resources and contacts. Includes contact info for local health departments and the National Lead Information Center, 1-800-424-LEAD. Directs readers to the EPA and HUD websites for more details. Lead-based paint disclosure reviewed, April 2016. Sellers must make the required disclosures before the buyer is obligated under contract to buy target housing, pre-1978. Update January 2011. AAR added the following to subsection 4C of the 2011 AAR Residential Resale Real Estate Purchase Contract. Buyer is further advised to use certified contractors to perform renovation, repair, or painting projects that disturb lead-based paint in residential properties built before 1978 and to follow specific work practices to prevent lead contamination. This edition is intended to advise buyers of the EPA rule, effective April 22, 2010, that requires the certification of contractors who renovate properties constructed prior to 1978. For more information on this EPA rule, go to https://www.aaronline.com. Documents Rule on Lead Paint Renovation Certification.aspx. For more information on the 2011 purchase contract revisions, go to https://www.aaronline.com. 2011 1. Revisions to the 2011 ARE. Residential Resale, Real Estate, Purchase, Contract 2. I. The law. In 1992, Congress passed the Residential Lead-Based Paint Hazard Reduction Act, also referred to as Title X or the Act. The law required the EPA and HUD to promulgate joint rules and regulations for lead-based paint disclosure. As a result, the Code of Federal Regulations, 24 CFR Part 35, Subpart H, and 40 CFR Part 745, Subpart F, and the final joint EPA and HUD rule, 61 FR 9064, were promulgated to implement the Act. There are literally hundreds of pages of statutes, regulations, and rules addressing this issue. Disclosures required before buyer is obligated. The federal law, 42 USCS Parv 4852D, and subsequent rules and regulations require that before a buyer or tenant is obligated under any contract to purchase a home constructed prior to 1978, target housing, the seller must 1. Provide the EPA-approved lead hazard pamphlet, Protect Your Family from Lead in Your Home. 2. Disclose any known information regarding lead-based paint hazards to buyers and brokers. 3. Disclose and provide any available lead paint records or reports to buyers. 4. Permit a 10-day opportunity or other agreed-upon time period to conduct a lead paint risk assessment or inspection unless waived by the buyer. If any of the disclosure activities identified above occurs after the purchaser or lessee has provided an offer to purchase or lease the housing, the seller or lessor shall complete the required disclosure activities prior to accepting the purchaser's or lessee's offer and allow the purchaser or lessee an opportunity to review the information and possibly amend the offer. 24 CFR Part 35, Subpart H, Part 3588B, 40 CFR Part 745, Subpart F, Part 745.107. See also 61 FR 9064. Third, contract requirement. Every contract to sell target housing must contain, or provide as an attachment, 1. A lead warning statement consisting of the required language. 2. A statement by the seller disclosing any known information regarding lead-based paint hazards. 3. A disclosure of the lead-based paint records or reports available to the seller. 4. A statement signed by the seller that the seller has complied with all notification requirements. 5. A statement signed by the buyer that the buyer, 1. Affirms the receipt of the above disclosures. 2. Received the pamphlet, Protect Your Family from Lead in Your Home. 3. Has read and understands the lead warning statement. 4. Received or waived an opportunity to conduct a lead risk assessment or inspection before becoming obligated under the contract. 6. A statement that the broker has informed the seller of the seller's obligations under 42 USC 4852D. The broker is aware of his/her duty to ensure compliance with these requirements. See 24 CFR paragraph 3592. The AAR disclosure of information on lead-based paint and lead-based paint hazards sales form may be used to satisfy these requirements. Sellers and brokers must retain a copy of the executed disclosure form for at least 3 years. 5. Further guidance from the EPA and HUD. At times, the necessary lead-based paint disclosures are not available until after contract acceptance. When AAR was in the process of revising the new contract, the EPA and legal counsel for NAR were contacted. AAR worked closely with NAR's legal counsel to draft contract language that would accommodate both the practice in Arizona and the concerns of the EPA. HUD and the EPA subsequently issued Part 3 of the Interpretive Guidance for the Real Estate Community on the requirements for disclosure of information concerning lead-based paint in housing, August 2, 2000. The interpretive guidance contains questions and answers concerning the lead-based paint disclosure requirements. In the interpretive guidance, the EPA and HUD confirmed that the California Association of Realtors are residential contract, which allows the lead-based paint disclosure information to be provided to the buyer after contract acceptance, complied with federal law because the buyer had the unilateral right to cancel the contract after receipt of the disclosures, the California rule. The EPA issued its third interpretive guidance on August 2, 2000, which contains the correspondence between NAR, HUD, and the EPA, in which the California rule was approved. In correspondence dated August 16, 2001, the EPA and HUD stated that the California rule applies nationwide. The EPA and HUD will state this in a future interpretive guidance. Therefore, either lead-based paint disclosure option in the AAR residential purchase contract should be acceptable to the EPA and HUD. A copy of the correspondence in its entirety has been posted below. V. Penalties for violations. The EPA and HUD recently issued guidelines for assessments of civil penalties for violations of the disclosure rule, guidelines, which addresses violations of the disclosure requirements and provides procedures to determine the appropriate enforcement response to violations. No warnings will be given. Immediate civil penalties will be issued. Responsible parties include listing brokers, selling brokers, buyers brokers, real estate brokerage firms, and property management firms. This guideline also contains a matrix of different types of violations and the suggested penalties. The guideline may be found at www.epa.gov/HUD-compliance. In addition to civil sanctions, a person who knowingly or willfully violates this law is subject to criminal sanctions. 15 U.S.C. Por 2615b. These sanctions include imprisonment for not more than 1 year and criminal fines of $25,000 for each day of violation. 6. Exempted properties. The following properties are excluded from the lead-based paint disclosure requirements: property constructed after 1977, housing for elderly, retirement communities composed of persons over the age of 62, or disabled housing unless a child under 6 will reside therein, foreclosure transactions, short-term leases, 100 days or less where no renewal or extension can occur, lease renewals where the disclosures were previously made and no new information since the initial disclosure was provided, purchase, sale, or servicing or mortgages, sale or lease of zero-bedroom dwellings. 61 FR 9064 at Section 4A. 7. For additional information, contact National Lead Information Clearinghouse, 800-400 Node. 24 Lead. HUD Office of Lead Hazard Control, www.hud.gov, Offices Lead Index.cfm. EPA website, www.epa.gov, Opt-in-TR Lead. Landlords are also obligated to make these lead-based paint disclosures before the tenant is obligated under a lease agreement. The AAR disclosure of information on lead-based paint and lead-based paint hazards, rentals, may be used for this purpose. However, the Act does not require that tenants be given an opportunity to conduct a lead risk assessment or inspection. Further, landlords may have their properties certified lead-free by an approved lead paint inspector. What is lead-based paint? Lead is a toxic metal that was once widely used in household paints. Homes built before 1978 often contain lead-based paint, which can chip, flake, or turn into dust. When inhaled or ingested, lead particles pose serious health risks, especially to children. Lead poisoning in kids can cause developmental delays, learning disabilities, and long-term neurological damage. Adults can suffer from high blood pressure, memory loss, joint pain, and organ damage. Key federal regulations. The Residential Lead-Based Paint Hazard Reduction Act of 1992, Title X, is the cornerstone of lead safety regulations. It requires landlords to disclose any known information about lead-based paint or hazards in pre-1978 properties, provide tenants with the EPA-approved pamphlet, protect your family from lead in your home before signing a lease, include a lead warning statement in the lease, offer tenants a chance to conduct a lead inspection before committing. Arizona-specific requirements. Arizona adopts federal standards and enforces them through local agencies. Landlords must disclose if the property was built before 1978 and share any known lead-related info. Conduct risk assessments if major renovations are planned. Ensure renovations that disturb paint are completed by EPA-certified contractors under the RRP, Renovation, Repair, and Painting, rule. Retain records of all LEED-related disclosures and work for at least 3 years. Landlord responsibilities. 1. Disclosure requirements. You must disclose LEED hazards and provide tenants with the EPA pamphlet. Tenants should also receive a copy of any LEED reports, and the lease must contain a federally required warning. 2. LEED-safe renovations. Renovations must be done by certified professionals who use LEED-safe practices to prevent contamination. 3. Proactive maintenance. Regularly inspect for chipped or peeling paint. Address issues immediately to prevent hazards and legal complications. 4. Respond to tenant concerns. Take complaints seriously. If LEED exposure is suspected, act quickly and involve a certified inspector if needed. Penalties for non-compliance. Failure to comply with lead paint regulations can result in civil fines up to $21,000 per violation, criminal charges for willful violations, tenant lawsuits if exposure causes health issues, eviction complications if tenants challenge the safety of the unit. Recent updates. 2021, EPA and HUD lowered LEED dust limits, 10 UGFT2 on floors and 100 UGFT2 on windowsills. 2022, Arizona strengthened enforcement of the RRP rule. Only certified contractors can work on pre-1978 homes. 2023, focus expanded to LEED in drinking water, especially in schools and childcare centers. Older properties may benefit from voluntary water testing. Here is a recap of what might happen if a real estate agent does not disclose that there may be lead-based paint in a sale. Legal and professional consequences for the agent. 1. Civil penalties. Agents can face fines of up to $21,018 per violation, adjusted for inflation. Each non-compliant transaction, even if unintentional, may count as a separate violation. 2. Lawsuits and liability. Buyers or tenants can sue the agent, seller, or landlord if they are harmed or misled by lack of disclosure. Agents may be held jointly liable for damages, especially if they failed to ensure compliance. 3. License risk. Failure to comply with federal law can be considered professional misconduct. State real estate commissions, like the Arizona Department of Real Estate, may investigate and impose disciplinary actions, such as reprimand or censure, mandatory education suspension, or revocation of license. 4. Damage to reputation, failing to protect clients and consumers, can lead to loss of trust, client referrals, and business opportunities. Agents' responsibilities under the law. Under Section 1018 of the Residential LEED-Based Paint Hazard Reduction Act, a real estate agent must ensure the seller or landlord discloses known LEED hazards, deliver the EPA-approved pamphlet to the buyer or tenant, confirm that all required warning language and signed acknowledgments are included in the contract or lease, retain disclosure documentation for at least 3 years,